Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Wednesday, December 4th. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon right across from me. What's cracking, my dude?
What's up, boss?
What's poppin'? We're going to talk a little bit about Week 13, booms and busts, break down some matchups for the week. Hopefully we'll get through all our matchups.
Yeah, hopefully.
I did notice before we start the show, I did notice that Dallas plays on Thursday Night Football for 2 weeks in a row. They played on Thanksgiving on Thursday Night Football, and now they play on Thursday night this week.
How about that?
So there's that. Before we jump right into our booms and busts for Week 13, be sure to do the following. Check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the FFChamps on Twitter, at the Fantasy Champions on Instagram. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Fantasy Champions. Subscribe wherever you listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Click the bell on YouTube for notifications. Leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Let's get right into the booms and busts. I used the last bit of air in my lungs to get that out. Let's start with the quarterback position. And this is it. One more game. You have one more game left with Rodgers. Just one.
It's the last one?
He had his last. No. This week is.
This was the last one.
It was not. Is it really?
Is it?
Hold on a second.
I don't know.
The truck up is playing Washington.
Okay. So
I said there's one more game.
Yes.
One
so
more.
You got one more.
This week he had 32 fantasy points. Aaron Rodgers, 243 yards, 4 touchdowns. He even ran it for 24 yards. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take 4 fantasy points away from him. He had 28.1 too. What a week for Rodgers. He's the QB1 this week. He had the number 1 QB finish of the week. And he had, like I said, one more week, and then you drop him and you let another team suffer.
Yeah.
Probably for the best. Deshaun Watson shocked everyone against New England and had 28 fantasy points as well. I was very surprised that he did this well. The only reason why, now the week before, you were looking at my team and I have Dak Prescott and I benched Dak Prescott against New England because I was like, I can't start Dak. I can't start the Dak attack. And we put Deshaun Watson on our sit list, and we should have known.
What should we have known?
That I sat Dak Prescott for a reason. I know that the Cowboys crap themselves against good teams. And so Dak Prescott craps himself.
Typically, Houston does too.
Yeah, that's true. But Houston did not. The other thing is Houston was at home. So
yeah, that might have. I still would have started Watson.
Yeah, but he had 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a relatively decent day.
Touchdown.
A lot of I was going to say a lot of his. It was the 6.5 fantasy points that he got
for his 5-yard TD reception.
It was not even 5 yards. Oh no, 6 yards. I'm sorry.
Oh, look at that! More than 5 yards.
Yeah, so that was what that was.
Helped.
That's 7.1 fantasy points now.
Yeah.
All right, Deshaun. So he would have had a 21-point week if he did not catch the touchdown. But because he caught a touchdown, hey, whatever works. Fantasy football, they're fantasy points. But he still had a decent week. Fitzmagic had 27.
Dude, Fitzmagic's kind of been baller.
Oh, he's doing it again. Is
the magic back?
He's making us believe.
Do you believe in magic?
Last 2 weeks, he has 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, over 6. He's somewhere upwards of 600 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been relatively decent. He's also running it, and that's weird to me. Okay, but So Ryan Fitzpatrick had a really decent week, and then we got Carson Wentz with 23 fantasy points or 24 fantasy points, somewhere around there.
Solid week against Miami, though. It was expected.
Yeah, was expected. He did not look great.
No.
In game.
How do you lose to the Miami Dolphins if you're the Eagles?
They almost won.
You still lose.
There was a Hail Mary. It was still a loss. So they threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game, and the Miami Dolphins tipped it, and Alshon Jeffrey it's in slow motion, stuck his hands out, and the ball was about to land right in his hands. And then right at the last second, a Miami player stuck his hands right on top of his and knocked the ball away. And I'm like, if that Miami player wasn't paying attention, Alshon Jeffrey would have caught a touchdown pass on a Hail Mary.
If that Miami player wasn't paying attention, Alshon Jeffrey would have dropped the touchdown pass to win the game.
Yeah, that's true. Unlike Aguilar.
Yeah. Well.
So Tom Brady had 20.
Hey, we actually said
24.
If you're gonna play Brady, this would have been the week, and it was still like trash time.
You know what's stupid? He plays the Jets and the Dolphins. I think no, he doesn't play the Jets. He plays the Dolphins.
Week 17. So if you do week 17,
yeah, screw that.
But he plays the Bengals.
No,
I have his list right here.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not saying no. He doesn't play the Dolphins. I'm saying no. I don't want to start him against the Dolphins.
It's the Bengals, you mean?
This is probably your Bengals. I'm sorry.
Ranked 26th against quarterbacks?
No.
Okay.
Brady will somehow choke that away.
Fantasy-wise,
you know, it's funny. The Patriots happen to play the worst division in football.
I know. Well, I think the worst division of football is the NFC.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Which we also play.
Yeah. But, hey, that's so ridiculous.
That's why they're 10-2.
Yeah. And then we have King Goff. Played Arizona. We said he was a good matchup. 424 yards.
A very disgusting matchup, but a good matchup.
2 touchdowns. What is?
You know what stinks in our league?
What the frick is the actual expectation for Jared Goff?
I played Foles, but one of the guys who I was thinking of playing over Foles was Goff because someone cut him in our league, and I was like, he's just too gross. I hate Goff so much I can't do it. I made the biggest mistake.
Yeah, that's true. And Goff, and then some other notables.
Trubisky did okay. Kyle Allen.
Trubisky, another decent week.
Sneaky getting like 20 a week. Still blows though.
And then Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar.
He only scored 2 touchdowns. He had a bad week passing the football, but he still had 23 fantasy points because he makes his ceiling low.
Yeah,
I mean his floor low. Floor.
That's actually,
he makes his floor high.
That's pretty beastly.
Mother of God.
That's pretty beastly to get 23.
You get 23 against San Francisco and only throw 105
and then
yards in a
people
touchdown.
who own Mahomes are
another week. He had 175 yards and a touchdown.
He like barely throw the ball in the second half. Because they were up like 30-0 or something like that early in the game. Like they were.
So there's 2 problems with Patrick Mahomes now that I'm starting to notice. A, there's nothing wrong with Patrick Mahomes. A,
fantasy-wise,
they either score in other ways really fast that don't involve Mahomes, and they get up. Like in that game, I think they had a rushing touchdown.
2 rushing touchdowns, I think.
They had 2 rushing touchdowns. They got into position really fast, and then they had, I believe, a defensive touchdown in the game, and then Mahomes' passing touchdown. So it was like, and then a field goal. Yeah. It was like, it was over.
Touchdown too, actually.
It was over after like 2 quarters.
Mahomes had a rushing touchdown. That's been a while since he did that.
Yeah, if he did not have that rushing touchdown, he would have had 14 fantasy points. That were 13. That's gross. So far this year for Patrick Mahomes, and when I talked about regression, this is my torch to carry.
But is the 2020 season lit for Mahomes?
Yeah, if he doesn't get drafted I would take him 3rd off the board. And
3rd?
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, I'm not ranking him 3rd. I rank him 1. But if I would take him if he's the 3rd quarterback off the board. I would take a risk taking a guy high.
If Mahomes is available in the late 5th round in next year's draft.
Oh yeah, I'd take him.
Okay.
Yeah,
me too.
I don't think he's going to be.
No, I don't think so either.
He'll be drafted in the 3rd round probably. He had 30, 35, and 30 to start the season. Everyone was like, "Oh, Mahomes is back." And then he had 18 the following week, 19, 21, and then the 3 games that he missed, and then 32, 16, and then 20. So he hasn't been as prolific as he was last year.
His end of season schedules: New England,
Denver,
and
Chicago. So if you own Patrick Mahomes, this is not
kind of scary.
This is kind of scary. Now, it's not you can't start him because he's Mahomes. I mean, he had 20 fantasy points this week.
Do you not start him against New England?
This week?
Yeah.
No, you start him against New England.
I agree with that.
You start him against New England. Some people will be stupid and not start him. There's that.
He also played in New England last year, and I know last year he was obviously fantasy-wise much better than he is this year.
Right.
But I think he got like 25 against New England last year in New England.
Yeah.
So I think he'll get at least 20.
Let's talk about some busts.
Drew Brees.
I was going to say Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
13. Drew Brees, 12.
Against Atlanta on Thanksgiving, a lot of people thought he was going to ball out.
And then Winston.
Yeah, he's kind of a bust.
He had 10 points.
He actually had one of his better games, though, because he didn't throw a pick. He just didn't throw any touchdowns.
Yeah.
They ran it to Peyton Barber a lot.
Our stream of the week at Cincinnati, 10 fantasy points. And then we had we'll take the brunt hit. I told somebody on Sunday, and I apologized to him on Twitter. He asked, "Should I start Christian Kirk or should I start Devontae Parker?"
Oh no! What did you say?
Christian Kirk. You have to. Would you have done the same thing?
So my sit of the week was Christian Kirk.
Oh, that's true.
But I did start him but it was either him or Jameson Crowder.
I love fantasy football is funny like that. You say sit him and then you start him in your own.
I didn't have a choice. It was either him or Crowder. But he was up against. It was a tough matchup. Jalen Ramsey was on him.
Yeah. And then I don't think there was anyone else that was really startable this week.
Nick Foles minus 1 point.
Nick Foles. I'm sorry. We did bad streaming this week.
Yeah.
I picked up Tan Hill and didn't start.
But even though the two guys we picked had terrible weeks,
yeah, guys
that we said if they're out there pick them up, there were guys that were available even in our league. Like Carson Wentz wasn't available in our league, but in a lot of leagues, Carson Wentz was available, and we said if he was to start him.
Right.
Jared Goff, the same thing.
Right.
So there were a few guys out there that you could have picked up and been good with.
I noticed that this was a very gross week in fantasy. Not a lot of high-scoring players. The highest-scoring player of the week was a man by the name of James White. 33
Look at
fantasy
that.
points. He had 79 rushing yards, 8 receptions, 98 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns.
He had to make up for his bad week last week.
He had to make up for his bad week last week. So
now he's going to go back to 10 a week.
Yeah, he's going to go back to 10 a week. He had 33 fantasy points. That literally catapults him up back into like the 30s for running backs.
He's actually number 17.
Is he 17?
He's 17.
Always an RB2. There you go, James White. So he had 33. I don't expect this to continue to happen. He doesn't have against Kansas City.
He has a good matchup the rest of the season.
He has a good matchup against Kansas City.
Ranked 32 against running backs.
He has a good matchup against Buffalo.
Ranked 20. Buffalo's 17 against running backs.
And then who are they? Cincinnati?
26th against running backs.
Yeah. So James White might be a decent play. But the big thing that I noticed in this game was that they shifted away from Michelle and started handing it a lot more to James White, and which I found like 79 rushing yards is a little bit surprising considering they've never done that. So we'll see. We'll have to see if it's a trend this week because he always gets targeted 5-6 times a game. You know what I mean? He's usually in that ballpark. But if he does get the rushing yards on top of the passing, and Brady's been looking for a secondary target outside of Julian Edelman all season, that is James White. So we might actually see James White continue to succeed rest of season with those easy matchups.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's a good flex option anyway.
Yeah. And we got Geis, number 2, 26 fantasy points. We talked about him on the last show, 129, 2 touchdowns. He had 2 receptions for 8 receiving yards. Mostart, 22 fantasy points. Most of these guys probably weren't in your starting lineup. The top 3 running backs weren't in your starting lineup. Finally get to some guys that were in your starting lineup. 22 fantasy points for Derrick Henry. We talked about him last show. He was a monster. And then you have Miles Sanders. Is this finally the breakout? 83 rushing yards, 5 receptions, 22 receiving yards, and a touchdown receiving 19 fantasy points. Is Miles Sanders breaking out?
Jordan Howard did not play, right?
No.
And we said if Jordan Howard did not play, that Miles Sanders would be a great play this week against Miami. He was, but if Jordan Howard comes back, I don't want to start Miles Sanders.
Yep. Well, but he's probably going to play this week is what I've been hearing. So
yeah, which is good things for Sanders.
Peyton Barber had 18 fantasy points.
So much for the Ronald Jones hype. But Peyton Barber is now going to get the hype again, and it's going to go right back to Ronald Jones.
Oh man,
they just don't care.
Yeah,
it's one or the other.
Now, Gurley. I figured Gurley out, people.
If he has a good matchup, he'll do well.
No. If he has a matchup where they can actually throw the football and have success.
You smacked your microphone.
I did.
But yeah.
Hold on. So here's the thing.
I actually almost didn't trade Gurley.
Talked about it last show. Todd Gurley is matchup dependent.
He is.
Not matchup dependent.
Well, he is matchup.
He's game script dependent is what I meant to say.
That too.
If they go behind early, Gurley's just completely rid out. Which is not something that you said last year. Because if they went behind early, Gurley was like a major part of the passing game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now he's just not. So they shift away from him when that doesn't happen. So they have to have a close game or a game where they're leading by a lot in order for Gurley to have a really good game. So when you look at the matchups for him rest of season, he's playing Seattle, which is a game that could get out of hand really quickly. That doesn't look like a great week for him, but they are at home. So maybe this was enough. This really good game against Arizona was enough for Goff to get back on track and for the Los Angeles Rams to have success.
I agree with you, which is why I ended up trading Gurley. Was because this week I figured he'd have a good week.
Yeah.
But Seattle, I don't love.
Seattle, Dallas, and San Francisco.
I don't like Dallas,
all
and I
games
hate
where
San Francisco.
I feel like Los Angeles is just going to get blown out in these 3 games.
Yeah, I do too.
Dallas might be close.
They might
Seattle.
beat Dallas or Seattle.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a close game, and
if it's a close game against Seattle and Dallas,
I don't know how.
I think they get to what they know how to do, and Gurley has good games. San Fran's going to be a frigging trash game for him.
Yeah. I think he might have one good game against Seattle or Dallas, but if I own Gurley, I'm scared of all 3.
Yeah, that's true. Devin Singletary pulls off another
Love
good
Singletary.
week. He's had 11 and 17 in the last couple weeks. I can't wait till he
still only had 14 carries.
Let's start playing the game. Obviously, in January, we're going to be talking a lot more about. We'll jump right in to dissecting the season, and we'll talk about draft stuff and all of that. Mm-hmm. But jumping in a little bit early.
Our first mock draft in January.
Yeah. We'll do it. Literally, second episode of January. Do a mock draft on sleeper.com or .app. Devin Singletary, where do you think he's getting drafted next year?
I hope it's not super early. If Frank Gore leaves or retires and they don't add anyone, or they add like a Mike Davis type back, like a third... Right. A small, no-name, third down back type, and it's pretty much just Singletary.
Yeah.
I would expect he could be a third-round pick.
Now, where do you think Devin's early takes, where do you think Devin Singletary lands next year?
In the draft?
No.
In fantasy?
In fantasy.
I think he can be a low-end RB1.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
He's been super efficient.
Love Singletary.
That's what gets me sweaty is the efficiency. It's like you watch Josh Jacobs and you're like, wow, he's been really good. But the efficiency is here and there.
I love that they use him in the passing game as well.
Yep. He's very utilized in the passing game. Very good running back. I'm so glad that they got rid of LaShawn McCoy. That literally opened the entire thing up for him. Did. But anyway, Duke Johnson had 17. Zeke had 17. Peterson also had 15. So both Peterson and Geis tore up the Carolina Panthers rush defense. David Montgomery had 15. Cute little game against Detroit, finally. And then Kareem Hunt had 15. Joe Mixon, decent game at 15. And then we got that lie game for Patrick Laird. He had 5. He had 5 rushing yards. I'm sorry. Last show I said he was 10 attempts for 6 rushing yards.
5 yards.
He didn't even get the extra rushing yard. Freaking blows. Oh man, that's so frustrating. They don't know how to use running backs at all. Like it's either their offensive line blows, but at least some people can get decent running ability. I don't know. So some busts. Le'Veon Bell with 8. He had 32 rushing yards on 15 carries.
Yeah, I was wrong on the Bell take, I guess.
Le'Veon Bell, Nick Chubb with 8.
Is McCaffrey a bust with 13.7?
Yeah, I know. I was going to bring that up earlier, and I just completely glazed over his name. Is that a bust?
I honestly think it is. Against Washington?
Yeah.
He was, I think, so on Draft Champion, or DraftKings. I don't know why I said Draft Champions.
Draft Champions.
On DraftKings, he was bought in
Next year, coming to you
60% of
guys,
teams.
our own fantasy platform, Draft Champions.
Our daily
You
fantasy.
just literally named an entire
I
daily
did.
fantasy platform.
But
dude, we'll talk after the show. We're gonna start our own.
it's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
I think I just accidentally came
Trash.
up with $1 million plan. Anyway, McCaffrey.
We'll make money on you.
McCaffrey was bought in. So 60% of the people that played DraftKings on Sunday had McCaffrey in their lineup.
I'm never gonna be able to get that in my head.
They had McCaffrey in their lineup. You know how insane that is?
And
Like, if you think about that.
he literally looked and he was like, "How many people are playing me on DraftKings? Oh, 60%. Frick that. I'll just have a 13-point week."
Yeah.
It's because he didn't score a touchdown. That's what happened.
Well, he didn't score a touchdown.
That's what McCaffrey does when he doesn't score touchdowns.
But honestly, if he was 13 a week, that's still like a top
that's
7
fantastic.
running back.
You get Zeke.
Yeah.
So Bell had 8. Chubb had 8. Freeman came back and had 8. That's a bust, but he was utilized as the feature back, which is good news for him. He's had these really, really tough matchups over the course of the entire season. Like, you literally look at his schedule and it's all red. It's ridiculous how many tough matchups he's had. He plays Carolina this week, who's been terrible against the run. He plays San Fran, which is extremely difficult game.
Yeah, that's tough.
And then Jacksonville, which is okay. So I don't know what to do with Devonta Freeman, but he's interesting. Lindsey had 7. I was really excited about Lindsey's back half of the season schedule.
Are you still as excited?
He had 2 really good matchups, and he has not performed in either one.
He's got one. He's got one more chance. He's got 2. He's got 3. Honestly,
I know. That's what I'm saying, and that's I almost traded for him. I almost traded Dak Prescott for him, but he just completely.
I know. It's 17 carries for 58 yards. It's gross too.
Like, outside of the 22, 10, 15 games, and the 27 game against Green Bay,
So
he has 8-8, 6-3, 8-7-7.
So half the time he's good, half the time he's bad.
Yeah, half the time but what games is he good?
You don't know. Yeah, that's kind of.
It's not even against, like, Indianapolis has had a good rush defense. It's 10. Cleveland's had a mediocre rush defense. That's 15. Chargers have given up a lot of fantasy points to running backs. That's 22. Tennessee's a tough matchup. He had 14, and then against Green Bay, he had 27, which is an easy matchup. Now against Minnesota, who's been the number 20 rush defense, he gets 8.5. Buffalo, who's been in the back 10 of rush defense, he's 7. And then Los Angeles has been a top 4 worst rush defense in the NFL. He only had 7 points against them. Yeah. So what the heck's going on with Lindsey?
It's not matchup anything. It's just I have no idea.
It makes me feel violated.
I think he had like 20 touches, didn't he?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he had 20 touches.
Yeah, so maybe he's just not good. And then probably, to me, the bust of the week.
Aaron Jones.
Yep.
Agreed.
For the second week in a row.
He had a great matchup against the Giants. I think anybody who owned Aaron Jones was really excited for this week. Especially coming off a poor week against San Francisco, which was kind of to be expected, San Francisco. But, 5 points against the Giants is gross. 11 carries for 18 yards.
Is there anyone else?
That's disgusting.
Last week we just totally missed on people.
Sony against Houston is kind of a bust, but he's been.
But you say that every week.
I know. Well, that's what I was.
It's going to change.
It's been. Ronald Jones 0.8.
Ho and a bottle of rum. If you're starting Ronald Jones, you have a problem.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to wide receivers. Devontae Parker had the number 1 performance as a wide receiver this week with 31 fantasy points. We talked about him a little bit on yesterday's show.
Devontae Parker, baby.
Yeah, dude, he's been clutch. Elshon Jeffrey had 24 fantasy points. Finally comes back, plays in a football game, and actually has success.
He was the best wide receiver by far.
He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games this year. 4 of them he's had 10 or more points, and 4 of them he has had 10 or less.
Oh, that's not good.
So, or 8 or less.
Which kind of been Elshon Jeffrey's career, to be honest.
But against Miami, he has a game against New York Giants. He has a game against Washington, week 14 and 15. And then against Dallas is a tough matchup. I probably wouldn't play him there. But the next 2 weeks, he's definitely playable. You had Kenny Golladay, 23 fantasy points on Thanksgiving. He only had 4 catches, 158 yards, and a touchdown.
First big play early in the game.
Yeah, it was really ridiculous. Robert Woods had 13 catches for 172 yards.
That's the Robert Woods we expected.
That's what I'm talking about. Sitting on my bench.
And probably will stay there.
Yeah, probably will stay there. What the funny thing is that I seriously contemplated this week. I never do this because start your studs every single week. Mm-hmm. But I contemplated benching DeAndre Hopkins for Robert Woods. And I had a moral conflict in my mind and said, no, I can't do it. And
19 targets.
He was a monster. Yeah, where's Cooper Kupp?
I think Kupp had a good game.
Yeah, he had a good game too. Devontae Adams, finally, there you go, buddy. Here's your man's little.
Devontae Adams
too late for you.
If you look at it, click on it. Hey, click on his name if you can.
Yeah,
he's had actually a really good year when he's played. It's because he missed the 4 games, so everybody forgets about it.
Okay, so after the crappy 5 and 7 point games, he's had a 7, a 7, and a 5. After you take those games out, 14, 23, 15, 15, and 21.
And he missed 4 games. And one of them was against the Lions.
Yeah.
So he especially the last 3
He's
weeks
getting
too.
Targeted less. I've noticed that.
Yeah, but he's still getting 10 targets a game, like 10, 11 targets a week.
Yeah, because last year I think he led the league in targets.
Yeah.
No, Julio led the league in targets.
He was up there, though. But he's to me, I think he's gonna get like 15 to 20 points every week.
Yeah, it's a good week for wide receivers, by the way. Just not ones that you expected.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton had 21. Cole Beasley had 20. James Washington 19. Jules had 18, 6, 106, and a touchdown for Julian. Allen Robinson was a great play against Detroit this week. If you started him, you feel really good about the 18 he got. For the love of God, if he goes somewhere with a quarterback, I'll get sweaty. Because Allen Robinson's
Will it be too late? It'll probably be too late by the time he
Allen
does.
freaking Robinson's really good at football. You have Anthony Miller, 18. D.D. Westbrook had 18. Just running down the list. Lazard, 17. DJ Moore, 17.
Really
Keenan
quickly,
Allen, 15. Cooper Kupp, 15. Mm-hmm. You had Tyler Boyd with 14 with Andy Dalton back.
That's important.
I got a stat correction here.
Oh, do you?
Because DeAndre Hopkins finished with 13 fantasy points last week. Now he has 14.
Look at that.
Wow. I'm freaking excited now. That's fantastic.
Can I just say DJ Moore has been insane the last, since week 5, really. He's continued the streak. 12, 6, 13, 16, 13, 28, 17.
Breakout, where is he ranked?
He's now number 11. Remember, we were going into the year, we thought that's
I was so nervous about that take.
I know.
And I'm feeling good.
Fine. It just took him the second half of the season. But
Yep.
Yeah, he's
been pretty good.
Low end wide receiver.
Let's talk about some busts. Tyreek Hill had 7. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both came down with 7 fantasy points.
Is Michael Thomas a bust with 7?
Where's? Oh yeah. Of course he is.
First week of the season under 10.
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's unfortunate.
He's been so good. Chark with 5, and he had 0 when Foles was out there. When Minshew got out there, I think he had a few more targets and 2 catches.
We also, I want to say this. We're gonna have an episode where we talk about our takes and what was right and what was wrong after the season ends. But our take on Brandon Cooks being a complete and utter bust can this year has been absolutely spectacular.
Yeah,
we told you not to draft Brandon Cooks, and
that was
you should not have
one
drafted
of the things we did get right. Yes.
Brandon Cooks. So
I feel like that was more my take than yours, though. Just saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Not that you disagreed with it.
No, I didn't disagree with it.
So I'll give you credit.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the credit given. Terry McLaren had 1 point, but he was very close to having more than that.
Christian Kirk, man, 3 points. I told you guys to sit him. I still started him because it was either him, Jamison Crowder, or Marvin Jones. And because the Lions had a third-string quarterback in, I didn't think Marvin Jones would do anything. And he got
we just
12
totally
points.
Ignored our own fantasy advice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some tight ends.
Okay.
Higbee against Arizona. I want to go back in time.
Baller.
I want to go back in time. Arizona, week 1, gave up 22 fantasy points to T.J. Hawkinson. He was the number 2 tight end that week. The number one tight end in fantasy was Mark Andrews in week 2 against Arizona. The number one tight end in fantasy in week 3 was Greg Olsen against Arizona.
Oh man.
The number 4 tight end, the number 3 tight end in fantasy was Will Dissly against Arizona. Week 5, the number. They actually had a good week. Oh wait, this was the bye week. Yeah, for Arizona. Yeah. So wait, hold on. Week 6, the number 2 tight end. Week 7, they actually had a good game. Rhett Ellison had 10 points against Arizona, and he was like the 12th tight end down this list, but he still had 10 points. So week 8, I'll stop here, but you get the picture. Arizona gives up a lot of fantasy points to the tight end position. They gave up 20 to Tyler Higbee this week.
You know what I think it is?
What? Arizona
doesn't have a tight end. They don't use tight ends.
So I
think they forget, or they don't know that there's a position called tight end and that it exists. So they see the guy line up next to the offensive line and they just assume he's another offensive lineman. Yep. So the defense doesn't care. And then he goes out to pass and they're like, what is he doing? There's an offensive lineman going out as a receiver. What is this? So they kind of forget that is a position. Yep. I think that's what it is.
Arizona, I'm just going to go all in. Mike Gesicki, he had 5 catches, 79 yards, 7 targets, a touchdown, 16 points. A very good week for Gesicki. He's having a late season breakout. We'll see if it continues if Ryan Fitzpatrick continues to play. The guy I wanted to talk about and wanted to note and wanted to mention is my man's Jack Doyle. The second I jump off the freaking train, Jack Doyle has a 16-point game.
Why did you? Ebron's out for the season.
I don't know.
Ebron's out for the season.
Brissett hasn't thrown it to tight ends.
Yeah. But Ebron's
then he throws it to Jack Doyle.
11 times.
11 times. Oh, Doyle. Can I come back on, or is it already too full? Is the train too full for me to jump back on?
No, go ahead.
Oh, all right.
They're playing Tampa this week.
I just don't know what to do. I feel like the second you pick him up and try to play him.
Well, you pick him up and start him over Darren Waller this week.
Oh God, no. Frick me, no. Witten had another 15-point week. The Walrus coming in at number 5.
Hey, there you go.
13 fantasy points, 7 receptions, 100 yards against Kansas City. I wish for the love of God they would target Darren Waller in the red zone. That would be awesome. Instead of targeting Foster Moreau.
Do you not like Foster Moreau?
No. Mark Andrews, number 6 tight end. He had 3 receptions for 50 yards and, a touchdown. The one touchdown that what's his name had.
Lamar.
Every single week. And then Travis Kelce, 5 catches, 90 yards. Cook having another decent week, and 10 fantasy points. And Caden Smith, the tight end for the New York Giants, had 10 points as well. Some notable busts. Our man's Ryan Griffin with 5 points. And then I don't think there was any
he still
other
had
bust.
5 catches. 5 catches and 7 targets.
That's disgusting.
He just didn't have any yards.
Hunter Henry was on the field a lot, and he just completely choked. Blue chunks all over the
I
field.
blame that on Philip Rivers.
Two fantasy points for those who
he only had 3 targets. And Rivers was, I know statistically wise he was decent, but man, he sucks.
Wow.
And Zach Ertz did not have a good game either against Miami.
Interesting.
Greg Olsen against Washington did not have a good game. There was a few busts this week. 3 points for both those guys. Kittle had 2.
George Kittle had 2.
Against Baltimore.
Why couldn't that happen, in the playoffs in our league?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Probably not.
That'll do it for our booms and busts for Week 13. Let's move into our matchup breakdowns. We're going to break down the Cowboys at the Bears, Panthers at Falcons, Colts at Buccaneers, Dolphins at Jets, 49ers at Saints, and Lions at Vikings. Really, really rapidly to end this show. It's late.
Cowboys at Bears.
Well, hold on a second. This is my team.
Oh, boy.
Dallas Cowboys for the second week in a row playing on Thursday Night Football. I don't think I've ever seen that in my entire life. Not Thursday Night Football, but Thursday football in general. I guess it works for Dallas. But Dak Prescott, and then you got our man's Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky blows. Don't play him. And then Dak Prescott. Do you like him against Chicago?
I don't love him, but I think at this point,
Doesn't matter for me.
Yeah. I think at this point though, Dak's had. What do you have? It doesn't matter if the Cowboys stink or Dak stinks. He's probably going to get 20 points.
Yeah.
How much they throw the ball and how many yards they get.
450 plus
They've been doing that all year.
Last week.
They've been getting yards all season.
Yeah.
I think they lead the NFL in yards actually.
Yeah.
As an offense.
And Dak is always there. Dak is always there.
Yeah, you play Dak.
Dak would be a freaking monster if he actually realized, oh wait, I have athleticism and I can run.
Yeah,
he never runs it.
Yeah.
I would be okay starting Dak against Chicago. I think this is going to be one of the easier He has Chicago, LA at home, and then Philly on the road. Philly has been they gave up freaking 29 fantasy points to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So if you had any concerns about starting Dak Prescott against Philly in Week 16,
do you start Mitch Trubisky?
No.
Yeah, no.
Elliott play.
Yep.
Montgomery against Dallas sit.
Yeah, I probably sit him.
And then we have Austin. Wow. I read Austin Hooper instead of Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper against Chicago play.
Yeah.
And then
you gotta start all those
what about Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb?
I don't love either, to be honest.
Okay. And then Jason Witten had coming off his 15-point week against Chicago.
Woo!
Yay! 7 targets, I think
I'm
it was.
probably not starting Witten.
And then on the other side, you have Allen Robinson against Dallas. It's a tough matchup.
It is so tough.
He's been okay.
I love Robinson, but I'm probably
going to start. No wide receivers. I wouldn't start anyone else on the.
Yeah, and Thursday night game, so.
Yeah. It was this blow. If I had to think about starting Dak this week, I would be sick to my stomach. But I don't. Yeah. So I'm okay with that. Panthers at Falcons, 48-point over under. We have Kyle Allen. We have Matt Ryan. Are you like at this point with Matty Ice? Because I'm not going anywhere near Kyle Allen.
This isn't a bad matchup for Matt Ryan.
It hurts. Hurts my soul. But you know what? Matt Ryan will have a good year next year.
Yeah.
It's a promise.
Okay.
I think Devonta Freeman. I think Devonta Freeman's a good play against Carolina. They give up a lot of fantasy, but this is the last time you're going to be able to start Devonta Freeman, in my opinion. So I think he's an okay play this week. On the other side, obviously, you got to start McCaffrey. DJ Moore. Do you think he continues the streak of
absolutely against
Curtis
Falcons.
Samuel? Maybe as a flex.
As a flex option, yeah, sure.
What about Calvin Ridley?
Yes, definitely.
Russell Gage, if Julio doesn't play. If
Julio's out, yes. If Julio's in, no.
Okay. That'll, I guess, do it for this game. As far as the tight end, I mean, Greg Olsen, would you be interested in?
I think if you need to, yeah.
Playing.
He could be an okay option.
Colts at Buccaneers, 47.5-point over under. I literally almost said.
Colts and Bucks, baby.
I almost said, and it would have sickened me to do so.
What did you almost say?
I literally almost said Andrew Luck.
Oh.
Now I was thinking about this earlier because it's been my heart. It's been a long time. I certainly hope Andrew Luck comes back next year. He won't, but I
think he's done.
I would love for him to.
That'd be great.
The Colts would be so good right now.
Oh, I know.
If Andrew Luck was playing.
I mean, and I get it.
And
Brissett's
I love
good,
Andrew Luck. I love Andrew Luck.
Brissett's a solid, top, what would you say, around 15 quarterback in the league. He's a solid, very solid quarterback.
I think he'll be better next year.
And people were on the hype train early in the season saying the Colts are the second or third best team in the AFC.
They're fine. They're going to be okay.
They're not a good. They're not a great team. If they had Andrew Luck though, I think they would be better than Houston.
Andrew Luck, for the sake of the NFL, please come back.
He probably won't.
Yeah, he probably won't. But anyway, Jacoby Brissett against Tampa. Do you like that as a streaming option?
I loved Nick Foles against Tampa, and you know how that worked. So
yep.
I guess
he's bitter against Tampa quarterbacks now.
But I guess it is still technically, a good matchup. So I think Brissett's an okay streaming
What
option.
about Buccaneers going up against Indianapolis? Jameis Winston is a sit, probably. I would think
so?
Because they're in Tampa, so it's not.
And Tennessee put 31 on him last week.
It was more Derrick Henry then.
I want to see where the Colts rank against quarterbacks. I don't think it's good, but I don't think it's bad either.
Holy mackerel. Oh, man.
Yeah, the Colts against QBs are 12th, so that's pretty good. So I guess you probably don't want to start Winston unless you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hurting my
We're like both like
we're contemplating as the show happens. Let's just move on to running back. I would say I personally I'm leaning towards not starting Winston. If you haven't.
Okay, I agree with that.
Ronald Jones and Peyton Barber, neither guy at this point.
Yeah.
Neither guy. And then you got Jonathan Williams. I don't think Marlon Mack is going to be back for this game.
Probably not. Just keep an eye on the injury report. If Marlon Mack is a go, it's a tough matchup for him. If Jonathan Williams has to start, it's a tough matchup for him. I don't know. Derrick Henry ate him up, so.
Yeah, that's Derrick Henry. Jonathan Williams is a sit to me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yes. Yeah. But if Marlon Mack plays, you got to start him.
What did Jonathan Williams even get?
I don't know.
This past week, it wasn't good.
Idea.
Because Naheem Hines was the top running back.
Chris Godwin, Mike Evans start both.
Yep.
Is this a game O.J. Howard can succeed? No.
Even though he had 8 last week.
Yeah.
Still no.
Zach Pascal. I think Hilton is in or out.
I don't know right now. It's too early in the week.
Yeah. We'll have to see. And then Doyle against Tampa. You like him?
I actually do.
Oh.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. Let's talk about Dolphins at Jets. For Miami, let's just do the proverbial. Let's do the proverbial start Devontae Parker.
Yep.
Start Mike Gesicki.
I think so.
Do you like Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I think in a deep league, actually, yeah. If you need a QB streamer in a deep league, I think Fitzpatrick is a good option. He's been good the last few weeks. What can I say?
I just had a massive bout of acid reflux when you said that.
Yeah.
Darnold going up against the New York. Wow, I knew I was going to screw that up. The Miami Dolphins is a great start.
I do like that matchup.
And then you got Le'Veon Bell, good matchup. Start him. Jamison Crowder, Robbie Anderson. I think you can get away with starting either guy, and I think you can get away with starting Ryan Griffin too.
Chris Herndon.
Ryan Griffin / Chris Herndon.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't matter. 49ers at Saints. 44 points over under. This looks like a big fat dub for the San Francisco 49ers. Wait.
You think so?
No.
Oh.
It is a terrible matchup for Drew Brees. Don't play him.
Yeah, don't.
If you have him.
Don't play Jimmy G
unless
either.
you go by the name of never mind.
So you go by
don't play Jimmy G either. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have no. What are you talking about? Passing attack against New Orleans?
Oh, maybe. I guess so.
You just throwing crap at the wall. They are in New Orleans.
Yeah, in New Orleans, it's kind of a different beast.
Tevin Coleman / Raheem Mostert / Matt Breida. Do you want any part?
No.
Okay. Debo, I think he's a play. I think he's a good play this week. He's been a good play the last couple weeks. The Saints give up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers. I think Debo can be a good play. Emmanuel Sanders might even be a decent look. And then obviously you have to start George Kittle. On the other side, you have Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
No quandaries. You're not thinking about benching Alvin Kamara.
No. He still gets. He has been extremely disappointing this year, but he still gets low and double digits.
More specifically because of injuries.
10 to 13.
You got Mike Thomas.
Beast. He's going to get back Cook. Into the 20, I think. Well, actually, not against San Francisco. And Cook, not against San Francisco.
Okay. Lions at Vikings, 42.5 point over under to conclude our matchup breakdown segment. We did very good on this.
If Matt Stafford plays,
okay,
sure. Other than that, not starting
anybody.
Yeah. Well,
Galladay.
Do you start Galladay and Marvin Jones, who both coming off double-digit weeks?
Yeah, David Blah was great. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes to Galladay.
The Vikings rank 30th against receivers.
Interesting.
So not Marvin Jones? Galladay, yes, not Marvin Jones?
Yeah, I'd start Marvin Jones.
Okay. Too. I would start both, too.
Throw crap at the wall and hope it sticks. Both Scarborough.
DeBow.
Yeah, he's been okay.
Do you
start him this week against
Minnesota?
I wouldn't.
That's kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Cousins is a great streaming option.
He had 21 carries this past week, but the Vikings ranked 4th against running backs. So
yeah.
Not starting Bo. And then Kirk Cousins, great streaming option. Dalvin Cook is going to freaking eat up the Lions. obvious start.
Zeke.
If Thielen plays, you start him.
Yeah.
Diggs, do you start him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kyle Rudolph, I'd start him too.
Maybe, yeah.
Just start everyone. That'll
Against
do
the
it.
Lions.
Yeah, that'll do it for our matchup breakdown. You have anything to say before we sign off?
I think it's time
Oh no.
to get back on the Darnold hype. That's all I'll say.
Be sure to listen tomorrow as we break down more matchups, discuss our starts and sits for the week, and conclude our podcast episode for week 1 of the playoffs. Don't forget to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and talk to you tomorrow, Fantasy Champs.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.